20A. Good morning, Charles and Donna. 20A. 20A, 10 lines from the bottom.
Good morning back to you.
Good morning. Okay, so the last thing we said was we had a debate, Abai and Rava, how to interpret a brisa, and there was a big difference between them. The difference was when you use the language of Isar, which is a language of latching onto, attaching, you want to take an Isser from somewhere else and attach it onto either to restrict yourself from eating today or to restrict a piece of pizza today. So according to the first band, according to Abaye at the top, so that worked for a Shavuot. You can attach an Isser onto a Shavuot. And then according to Rava, he reread the Bryce in a different way. And we're ending off right now with him that he just mentioned the way you read the Bryce is that, sorry, the other way. Abaye himself read it that, yeah, Abaye himself wasn't sure exactly, can you do it or not? It sort of depended. And Rava said now the Torah put the Lashon Isar, the language we use for attaching, in between a neder and a shvuah. Shvuah is an oath on the person, and neder is a vow. It's on an object. It put it right in the middle of those two words to teach you that it's going to apply to both nedarim and shvuahs, depending on how you articulate it. If you say this piece of pizza should be prohibited to me like a pig is prohibited to me, or like a korban is prohibited to me, probably a better example, like a korban is prohibited to me, so then the pizza could become prohibited. If you say you want my eating today should be prohibited to me like the eating of a korban, then your eating today will be prohibited to you. So now we're asking, Heichan hitilu, where did the Torah place this word isar in between a shvuah and a neder? Says the Torah, v'im beis isha nedara o asra isra al nafsha b'shvuah. So the end of the verse says, in beis isha nedara o asra isra al nafsha b'shvuah. So the word asra isar is right in between her making a neder and her making a shvuah. So if a lady goes to make a neder or asra isar al nafsha b'shvuah, it placed it in the middle of the word neder and shvuah to teach you that. Now, says the Gemara, Abaye and Rava each go according to their reasoning. The Itmar, Matvis b'shvuah, Abaye Amar kimotzi shvuah mipivdami. Yeah, if you do hatfasa b'shvuah, so if you make a shvuah, but instead of saying a language of, a person swears that he won't eat today, he says, I want today to be prohibited to me, like this sacrifice. So is that good or is that not good? Abaye Amar, yeah, that's good. It's kimoti shvuah mipivdami. It's like uttering a regular oath. It's the same level. So since Abaye holds that, that's why Abaye at the top of 20a said that that's how you interpret the brisa. V'Rava Amar, no, it's lav kimoti shvuah mipivdami. Rava said it's not kimoti shvuah. It's not the same as being moti shvuah mipivdami. That's why Rava. Yeah, that's it. I'm not sure if I was clear. According to Abaye, he learns the brisa that it's a language of latching on. You can attach a prohibition onto you. It's a valid shvuah. According to Rava, he just said it's a regular language of shvuah. He didn't say it's a language of attaching something. It's a regular language of a shvuah. And therefore, why does he hold that? Because he holds if you attach something in the world of shavuos, at least, it's not going to be the same as uttering a complete shvuah. So now, Meisvei, we're going to bring a question on Rava. Eizu Isar ha'amar b'Torah. So this word Isar, which either for us means it's a language of attaching something, according to Abaye, or according to Rava, it's a regular language of Shvuah. So Eizu Isar ha'amar b'Torah. What's an example of an Isar in the Torah? So the three examples. Ha'omer harei alai shelo ochel basar. Vishlo Eshia, and a guy says, I'm not going to eat meat, and I'm not going to drink wine, ki yom shemeis bo aviv. Like the day my father died, ki yom shemeis bo poni, like the day some other guy died, ki yom sheneherag bo Gedalia ben Achikam. Like the day that Gedalia ben Achikam, same as Tzom Gedalia right after Rosh Hashanah, like the day that he died. or sorry, 4 cases. Kiyom Shira Yerushalayim Bechorbana, or like when you see Yerushalayim in its destruction, Aser. Just one more line. So these 4 cases, people often fast on yard sites. So these 4 cases, what you're saying is you made a eternal fast, meaning you said I'm always going to fast on my father's yard site. You're always going to fast on John's yard site. You're always going to fast on the day that Kedai ben Achikam died, and you're always going to fast. You're always going to fast. I guess the day you saw Yerushalayim and its destruction, you're going to fast on that day onwards every year. So so now what are you in essence doing? You're saying that you want today to be like that day. So let's just say the yard site of a father. So it's going to be Rosh Chodesh. It's going to be the 10th of Sivan. I don't know. 10th of Sivan is the day someone's father died. So he makes a oath that every 10th of Sivan. So okay, he's not going to eat from on all the yard sites. He makes it in the language of a Shavuot. Then he says, I want today. Today is Iyar, not Sivan. I want today to be like that day. So you're taking the prohibition of that day and you're applying it to today. So that sounds very much like this. That the word Isar is a language of attaching. You're clinging onto existing Isser already, and you're prohibiting yourself in an oath through that method. So says the Gemara Bishmal Abai the Matis Neder Matis Shvua. So in this case, says Abaye. So this is very good because just like by a neder, it could work. Just like if you can aser, the food today, like the day of the father's yard site, it's going to work. So too, if you do it by a shvua, it'll also work. So according to Abaye, you have such a concept of attaching, clinging onto an existing isser by nedarim and by shvua. Turning the page, but according to Rava doesn't agree with this idea of that by a shvua, it's you can cling onto an existing isser. You have to yourself utter it. You can't just cling on to something else. Ela the Rava kasha. So what's Rava going to do? How he's going to read this brisa? It's pretty explicit that you want to prohibit yourself from eating today, like the day of a yard site. According to Rava, that doesn't work. Ela the Rava kasha. So Amalak Rava taritz ve'emahachi. Rava says you have to answer the following way. Ezu iser neder ha'amar b'Torah. Rava has a novel approach that by nedarim, by taking darim, so prohibiting objects upon yourself, you actually have to speak out in the following way. Ha'omer harei alai shelo ochel basar. Today I'm not going to eat meat, and I'm not going to drink wine. Like the day, kiyom shemeis va'aviv, kiyom shenari bo ploni, etc., etc. V'amar Shmuel, as long as he made that neder, he didn't just have it one time, but he made it that every yard site he's going to fast. So meaning, according to Rava, and we'll see the reasoning in a second, but according to Rava, the way to be liable for a neder is you have to actually speak out what you want to be prohibited in. I want to prohibit myself from, let's say this piece of meat, like it's prohibited to me on that day. According to Rava, that's the way you make a neder. So by attaching it to something else, that's not a subcategory of attaching. That's how you make a neder. Now, according to Rava, the case of attaching would be where you didn't speak it out. You didn't formulate it in such a direct way. For example, if you say, I want this day to be like that day. That you didn't speak anything out. So that would be a case of attaching, and that doesn't work for Rava. But the regular case of a neder is going to be, I want this to be prohibited onto me, just like it is prohibited on that day. So that's how Rava is going to learn this brisa. It's not a case, it's not a subcategory of nedarim where you're attaching something. It is the case of a neder. Now, why does Rava hold that that's the case of a neder? My taima. Amar Kra, he learns the pasuk in the following way. Ki yidor neder la'Hashem. A person makes a neder to God. Ad sheyidor bindavar hanother. It only is going to work until you make it bidavar hanother. You have to latch it onto something which is already prohibited. Kiyom Shemespo. Sorry. I cheated with another. That's how he interprets the verse. So you have to take something, prohibit it onto yourself, just like something else is prohibited onto you. That is the way you make a neder. So according to Rava, that the brisa for Abaye was a very nice source or a proof that it's attaching works, and once it works by nedarim, it should work by a shvua. According to Rava, not talking about attaching anything. This is the case of a neder. A case of attaching would be this day is like that day. That Rava doesn't have a source that should work in terms of attaching. And if it's not going to work in nedarim, then it's not going to work in shvuas either. Okay, so says the Gemara. Really, in that brisa, some cases are more self-intuitive, more understandable than others. The case where you want to latch something onto the day that a father died. So the day he died, you fasted that first day, and then you said, "I'm going to fast every year afterwards on the yard site." So to latch onto that is understandable. Pshita, that's obvious. Fine. Which case is less obvious? When it's Tzom Gedalia, Kiyom Shenareg Bo Gedalia Ben Achikam, it's Strichale. There's a novelty. What's the novelty in accepting, in not eating, accepting a neder on the day of Tzom Gedalia? Why would you have thought that shouldn't work? It's Strichale. You need this novelty. Why? You'd have thought if you said nothing, you're anyways not allowed to eat. It's a fast day. So even if you didn't say anything, you're already prohibited from eating. So maybe you would have thought, ki nadar nami lo havile iser, since you're already prohibited from eating, you would have thought that your neder therefore doesn't do anything, doesn't add anything, because you're already prohibited. The hayi lav mitfas benederhu, that would not be considered that you're latching onto something which is prohibited on you because it's already prohibited. So, lav matas benederhu kamash malon. The novelty is even if you say that you want to not eat on the day of Tzom Gedalia, so you want to not eat today, just like you can't eat on Tzom Gedalia, and even though Tzom Gedalia itself is already prohibiting you from eating, but the nether's still going to work, and that's going to be a novelty. So the question is, so like, what's the novelty in that? Why does it work? So either potentially you could say that a Tzom Gedalia is only rabbinic. So you'd have thought that so the novelty is that on a rabbinic obligation, the neder is going to be valid. That's one option. It will be another option. Why neder should work over here? Yeah. 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 I mean, it's. Yeah. Yeah. So the novelty is that even though you're already prohibited from eating that day, but you can prohibit yourself from eating food, even though you're already prohibited, and that's still going to work as a neder. Maybe because not eating is really on the person. It's more like a shvua, and here you're prohibiting an object. It's a neder. So maybe that's why it works. Really, if you're already prohibited, the person's already prohibited. You can't add something onto that. But here you're adding on the object. So maybe the meat.
Oh, the meat.
The meat. I want the meat and the wine to be prohibited to me. So I can't eat, but maybe I didn't specify what the food is. So the novelty is that would work. So either way, so after all the dust settles, so when you say I want this meat to be prohibited to me the same way the yard site is prohibited to me, so according to Abaye, that's called attaching. You're clinging on to an existing prohibition. Mm-hmm. Since that we see that works by a neder, it's going to work by a shvua also. According to Rava, that's not an example of attaching onto. That's just an example of a neder, and therefore we don't see that attaching works. And if we don't see it works by nedarim, then we don't have any precedent that it should work by a shvua. Okay, fine. Good morning, Jared. The af Rabbi Yochanan savar la leha derava. Okay, And even Rabbi Yochanan agrees to that which Rava said. Fine. Now, let's see where he says that. Dichi Asa Ravin used to always come from Eretz Yisrael to Babel and say over the teachings of Rabbi Yochanan. So mifta lo ochalach, use that expression of mifta, I will not eat, that works. Iser lo ochalach. If you say Iser lo ochalach, what is it? Shvuah. It's a regular language of a shvuah. According to Abaye, Isar is a language of clinging onto. According to Rava, Isar is a language of a regular shvuah, the same way it's a regular language by Nadarim. So Rabbi Yochanan agrees to Rava, right at a new point. So good time. 20b, like 13, 14 lines down. 20b 1.2785. Yeah.
So I'm just checking there. It's pretty far away from this.
So speaking of Rabbi Yochanan, he also Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi used to also come from Israel to Babel and say over the teachings of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, so we know, or we're going to know now, that there's something called a Shvuah Sheker, a Shvuah that's called a Shvuah where you lie, and it's called a Shvuah Shav. The Shvuah Shav is where you just, nothing. So you take a table and you say, I swear, and you say in the name of God that this table is a chair. So that's called a Shvuah Shav. It's nothing. It's vanity. Doesn't mean anything. Versus a Shvuah Sheker is you say something and you didn't keep your word. So now we're going to get a little bit into what are the definitions of these shvuas. So Yasser Rabbi Yochanan ochel velo ochel sheker. So ochel velo ochel, I will eat. So you say today I will eat the piece of pizza, and the whole day goes by and you did not eat the piece of pizza. So that's called sheker because you said you're going to do something, and you didn't do it. Now and the warning in the Torah for not doing this is lo sishvu b'shmi l'sheker. Do not swear falsely. Yeah. L'shaker. Yeah. Lo tishvu b'shmi l'shaker. It's very interesting. And then the end of the verse is v'chilalta Hashem Elokecha. You profane God's name. Yeah. Okay. So lo tishvu b'shmi l'shaker. Okay. Achalti v'lo achalti. Now it's interesting. You're saying I ate. Yesterday you're saying I ate the piece of pizza. It's not true. You make a swear in the name of God that yesterday I ate the piece of pizza.
What if you just swear you don't invoke Hashem's name?
For no reason? Just God's name in vain?
No, you just don't say.
Yeah, I swear in the name of God, period.
Okay, that's, you say that, but if I just say I swear, I won't do it.
Good question.
Hashem.
Right. Does I swear imply in God's name or no?
Yeah.
Oh, it does imply. Good question. There's something called the same thing. Something called kinuyim, like nicknames, so to speak. Meaning you can invoke, things that are implying. I don't know though. It's a good, yeah. Nowadays that's the way like Americans speak, right? Yeah, I swear to you.
Yeah.
You probably want to err on that side of that.
So that's why we say bli neder. Right? When they give you an aliyah and they want to make some money off you, depending on your financial status, so they automatically give you a mishaberach afterwards. Right. Why? Because a mishaberach afterwards commits you to pay some money to the shul. Right. But it says there, bli neder etem tzedakah. You don't whenever any pledges, even tzedakah works that even when you think about it, you might be obligated to give it, like a korban. But any pledges you always want to have in your head, bli neder, if I could do it or not. That's the famous question in yeshivas when the guy comes to yeshiva collecting money, right? The mir has all day long people coming by collecting with money with their credit card machines, so or they're just their hands. Yeah. So let's say you see the guy, I'm gonna give him 10 shekel. By the time you get there, he's gone already. So that's the question. So what do you do now? You committed to give. So some say you committed to give if he didn't run away before you got there. That's really what you were thinking. I'll give to him if I can reach him. Yeah, that's them. Yeah. So now what would you say? If he gets to me, yeah. So I think guys make good money.
Those guys are aggressive.
Yeah. So what if you say a guy makes a swear that I ate pizza yesterday and he really didn't? So is that called a shvuah sheker? It's false, or is that called a shvuah shav? It's just vanity. It's nothing. It's a total. So funny. I would have said it's sheker personally because we associate like anytime you change from the truth, we call it a lie, right? We call it false. Mm-hmm. You didn't do that. That's false. But here in the world of a shvuah, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that's called a shvua shav. That's in shvua shav is also the table is a chair. That's one example. Say I ate yesterday and you didn't eat yesterday is considered shvav because he understands that a shvua sheker is specifically you said something and now you're changing your words. The changing of the word is you're doing something with that's false. I'm saying in English it's hard because we associate false that yesterday I went to the beach. It's not true. Really, yeah, that's false. So it's like the association is hard, but in the word of a shvua, you didn't change your words because you didn't commit to yesterday because it didn't happen. It already happened. That's a shvua sheker, shvua shaver saying we look to the past. That's gonna be the debate. Yeah. So
Is that what the Mishnah was saying? Those are four, right?
there's two in the future, two in the past. Yeah. Now
if you're saying something I did in the past, you can be using it for the future, right?
like what?
Like you say you could be doing I promise you I did this in the past. That's why I'll do this in the future. You know what I mean? As a way for future gain.
Right.
Future benefit.
Right, trying to build your credit. So yeah. So what we're saying right now, Rabbi Yochanan is saying achati is shav. Because sheker is only when you actually change your word, then you did something which is false. What's the source? So you can't invoke God's name when it's just for nothing, for absolute vanity and nothingness. That's shav. Okay, now konamos, the third case. Konamos is you're prohibiting something to you like a korban. So let's say you don't do that, you violate that. So I don't. Do they give an example of a konam?
Another term for Durham,
Right,
commonly pronounced by declaring that a particular object is forbidden.
as a konam.
In lieu of the word korban.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So meaning it's referring to only Nadarim, and it's saying you're gonna instead of saying this piece of pizza is gonna be prohibited to me, you say konam pizza on me. It's another way of saying korban. That's one of those examples of a nickname. Kinuyim. I think it's the first mission in Nadarim about kinuyim. So konamos, if you don't keep that, what happens? Over below yachel dvaro. Below yachel dvaro means you're making your words mundane. Yichel, like chil Hashem. You're profaning your words. Now, many point out this lo yachel dvaro doesn't only apply to nedarim by konamos. Any commitment, a shvuah or a neder that you make and you don't keep, you're going to be also violating this prohibition of lo yachel dvaro. You said you will do something in the name of God. You've committed yourself. If you don't do it, you're going to profane yourself. Just it's telling you that it also applies over here. Not that it only applies over here. It also applies over here. Okay, fine. So now, Rabbi Yochanan just told us a novelty that a past shvuah is under the category of shav, of vanity, and not sheker, and not falsehood. Let's ask on this. So, Meisve, let's bring a brisa. Shav v'sheker echad hein. Shav and sheker, a shvuah shav and a shvuah sheker, a shvuah of vanity and a shvuah of falsehood, they're one. So what does it mean one? Ma'i lav mideshav l'sha'avar. Just like a shvuah shav is talking about the past, af sheker nami l'sha'avar. So too a false shvuah should also be referring to the past. Just like shav is you're talking about something and saying it's this table is a chair. So that's more past than it is future. You're not committing to anything. So to a shvuah sheker falsehood, I ate, and really you didn't eat, that should be considered a shvuah sheker. However, a false shvuah. But however, Rabbi Yochanan said a shvuah sheker is the future, only when you change your words. So, but what does it mean like that they're one? Sounds like they're both talking at the same time period. So if that would be true, if that's how you interpret the brisa, then what would happen? Alma, that would imply, achalti velo achalti, I ate and I didn't eat, is considered sheker. That's considered false. If that's considered false, that's a problem with Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan holds shvuah sheker, a false is only when you change your words, meaning you committed to something and you veered off and you didn't do that. Declaring about the past, according to Rabbi Yochanan, is a shvuah shav, it's just nothing. But it's not a shvuah sheker. Well, if that's true, how does he understand this brisa? Says Rabbi Yochanan, well, midi area, you think it's talking about the exact same thing? No. Shvuah shav is its thing, and shvuah sheker is its thing. Hakadisa v'hakadisa. Each one is in its own category. Okay, but then what does it mean at davar echad? The brisa says they're both one. What are they one? If they're not talking at the same time, they're not united in that area. How are they united? Umay davar echad. So this is interesting. The bedibur echad nemru. They were both said in one saying. So we're going to see now that Hashem said certain things in one saying, things that a person can't say or a person can't hear. Right? We can't say two separate things at the same time. Impossible. But Hashem did do it. He did it by Shabbos. So just like by Shabbos he did it here too. To which the Gemara is going to ask, well, by Shabbos we have a halakhic ramification. What about here? This is a little bit well known. Remember, the Gemara in Kedushin says that, it's really a verse, women are exempt from time-bound mitzvahs, which is not so many. Yeah. So for sure, biblically, the debate Rashi and Tosfos if it's rabbinic time-bound mitzvahs also. However, if they're exempt from time-bound mitzvahs, so what happens to a woman on Shabbos when it comes to Kiddush? Any positive commandment on Shabbos, it's time-bound. You only have 24 hours, whatever it is.
What about being nidah, right?
What does that mean? That's a negative prohibition.
That's not positive, right? Okay.
But that the Torah says, like, if you bleed your tummy, can't exempt you from
But
that.
you have a 7-day time, and you're bound by a certain set of time, right?
Okay, yeah. So we're not saying that anything to do with time, they're off the hook. We're saying positive mitzvahs that are time-bound.
Like the film.
Yeah. That's a debate if the film is time-bound. Yeah. Right. We don't wear them at nighttime, but yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's not clear why exactly women don't wear tefillin. It's definitely not the minhag, and it's definitely inappropriate. But the question is like, how high it ranks in the do not do's. So hopefully Donna won't get any ideas. Yeah. But a Shabbos making kiddush right there. So they should be exempt. Why they're not exempt? Why they always come home and make kiddush for your wife? Mm-hmm. Because we're going to see since Hashem said zachar v'shamar. Zachar is positive. Remember me, the Shabbos. Shamar is don't do. Guard the Shabbos. They're said in one saying to compare the two. Whoever is prohibited in the do not do's is obligated in the yes do's. Right? So let's see that. Kidatanya, as it says in the Brisa. Zachar v'shamar b'dibrei echad nemru. Zachar v'shamar was said in one saying. So, I remember I had a friend who asked me, it popped in my head, like, what does that mean? For what practical ramification is that? So it's explicit Gemara. That why does Hashem say those things, two things in one saying? So b'divrei echad nemru, ma she'ein hapeh yachol ledaber, u'ma she'ein ha'ozen yachol lishmoa. The mouth can't say zachar v'shamar at the same time, and the ears, interesting, the ears also can't hear zachar v'shamar at the same time. So he said it. Why? Bishlam Haslam over there. It's very good because b'divrei echad nemru. Kid Rav Ada bar Ava, that's like the opinion of Rav Ada bar Ava. What did Rav Ada bar Ava said? Like we just explained. Dam Rav Ada bar Ava nashim chayavos b'kiddush. Women are obligated in kiddush hayom of kiddush of the day. Dvar Torah, biblically. That's important. So I don't know if it means Shabbos day kiddush because the first time you make kiddush is really Friday night. There's a whole debate when you're in davening. You say vayikulu in davening, right? So it could be one shouldn't have in mind that a kiddush it's part of davening or not. But either way, that first kiddush of the day is biblical. Now, simply understood, the words are biblical, but there is an opinion out there. I think Tosfos holds that on the wine, it's biblical. Kiddush on the wine is biblical. So when you're making kiddush Friday night, you could be involved in a biblical act. It's a real.
Ben Ish Chai says that too.
So, yeah. So simply it's the words. It's the words that you're declaring the day holy. That's biblical. The wine is just the rabbis instituted certain things on wine because it makes it more of a chashuv thing, more of an important thing. But some say even on the wine, which is interesting. So okay. So the Dvar Torah Amar Kra, the verse states whoever is included in the category of do not do, meaning safeguard my Shabbos, keep from doing the prohibitions. Yeshna b'zechira is obligated in the positive commandments. V'hani nashi hoil ve'isnahu b'shmira, just like they're obligated in guarding. Isnu nami b'zechira, they're also obligated in remembering my Shabbos. So that's good for Shabbos. But ela hacha, why did he say shvua shav and shvua sheker in one saying also? It's according to what we're saying now. Hashem said those two also at the same time. For what reason? What's the halachic teaching that he said this? Ella to teach you the following. To teach you that just like you're obligated, you get malchus for a shvua shav, for you say you swear that the table is a chair and a chair is a table, so too you'll get malchus al hasheker. You'll get malchus for saying something and then not keeping it. So it just sounds like here that like Shavuot Shav is like it's for sure you get malchus, and we're applying it to Shavuot Sheker. On that the Gemara says klape laya, like which way you're going. You're going the wrong way. Shavuot Sheker at least has, remember, you only get malchus if you violate an act, right? Alav sheyesh bo ma'isa. So at least the Shavuot Sheker has an act. You can have a case where you swear you will not eat, and then you get up and you do eat. So it should go the other way. Just like by a Shavuot Sheker you get malchus, the novelty is that by a Shavuot Shav you'll also get malchus. Why do you get malchus by a Shavuot Shav? We'll see this on the next Amud. If I stop digressing, yeah. So it's because the Torah is going to say that by this Shavuot, the Torah says that Hashem does not cleanse you from that, meaning Hashem is not going to punish you and cleanse you. Hashem doesn't do it, but the Bezdin, the court, will do it. So it's going to be a special exception that even though saying the table is a chair with the name of God is not you're just speaking, you're not doing an action, but there's a special verse that's going to teach you that Bezdin will still give you lashes for that. So Ela Ema really say Kishem Shaloka ala Sheker, because that's the case, at least has more of an action. Kach Loka Nami ala Shav. You'll also be liable for Shav, for a Shavuot Shav. Now, says the Gemara, at the end of the day, you're telling me that there's a verse out there that says Hashem won't cleanse you for making these Shavuos, but Bezdin, the court, will cleanse you. They will give you lashes. Well, in that case, Pshita, Hayilav. They're both negative prohibitions regarding Shavuos. And by negative prohibitions regarding Shavuos, the verse says that Bezdin will give you malchus. So why is like one better than the other? So says the Gemara, that verse of Lo Yinakeh, you will not be cleansed. You will not be cleansed, which teaches you that Hashem won't cleanse you, but the Bezdin will cleanse you. Cleansing meaning you get malchus, you get a kapara, you get atonement with the malchus, then the blemish gets removed from you. So says you could have learned the verse, Lo Yinakeh klal. No one's going to absolve you. Hashem's not going to absolve you and give you malchus. Nobody will give you malchus. Kamash Malan, Kiddushanila. Kamash Malan, that like we're going to see that no. The novelty is that really Hashem won't cleanse you, but Bezdin will cleanse you. Bezdin will give you malchus. That's one answer. So the Ibayis Ema, another practical ramification, why they're considered one. What's one about Shavuot Sheker and a Shavuot Shav? Kishem shemevi korban al Sheker. Just like you bring a sacrifice for violating a Shavuot Sheker, so too kach mevi korban al Shav. So too you're going to bring a korban on Shav, on a Shavuot that's on vanity. The table is a chair, the chair is a table. And Rabbi Akiva and it goes like the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, the mechayiv l'sha'avar kilahaba, that he obligates you on a past Shavuot, just like he will obligate you on the future Shavuot. It's Rabbi Akiva as opposed to Rabbi Shmuel. That just like a past Shavuot, you're going to be obligated to korban, so to a future Shavuot, you're also going to be obligated to korban. So at the end of the day, the Bryce has said that these two things are one. The question is one for what reason? Either they're said in one saying to teach you that you get malchus for both, or they're one because they're both, let's say Rabbi Akiva, that you're obligated to bring a sacrifice in both cases. So two answers to how they're one. How Rabbi Yochanan's going to get out of that problem. Okay, fine. Mesei. Another problem with Rabbi Yochanan. Ezu hi Shavuot Shav. What's an example of a Shavuot Shav? A Shavuot for vanity, for not. So Nishba Lishanos Esayadua. Like we said, you take the table and you swear that it's a chair. So Nishba Lishanos Esayadua la'adam. Things that are known to people, you come to change it. Change what's a tissue box is a bottle of water, right? Things like that. That's total nonsense. That's a Shavuot Shav. What's a Shavuot Sheker? It's Nishba Lahachlif. So you want to go with a Shavuot and change the truth of what happened. So right now the Gemara understands that it means like I ate, really you didn't eat. You're trying to change something that happened. Now, if that's true, that's against Rabbi Yochanan, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, a false Shavuot is only changing your words. You're changing your commitment. Once you committed to something, changing that is Shavuot Sheker. Stating false things about the past is under the category of Shavuot Shav, not Shavuot Sheker. Says the Gemara, okay, Ema, what it means is Nishpa Umachlif. He made a Shavuot and then he Umachlif, he got up and he changed. He made a commitment, Umachlif, and then he changed his commitment. So that would be in line with his opinion, not Nishpa Lehachlif, making an oath to change the truth and claim that it's false. He's making a Shavuot and then getting up and then veering off from what he committed to do, and that's in line with his opinion.
Okay, good politician.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, another reason maybe why a religious Jew shouldn't go become president. Yeah, make all these promises. So, yeah, exactly. So, although nowadays they change the future and the past.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they change everything. So, yeah. So that's what Ben Shapiro makes money, right? So, Kiyasa Ravin Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So it's interesting. Now, Rabbi Yirmiyah, then Rabbi Abo, and then Rabbi Yochanan. It's not going to be the exact same Rabbi Yochanan that we just saw. That was someone else in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. It's interesting. Achalti v'lo achalti. I ate. It's not true. You did not eat yesterday the piece of pizza. Sheker. So he says this. Rabbi Abo in the name of Rabbi Yochanan says that that's considered a Shavuot Sheker. That's considered a false Shavuot. The Azharte. What's the warning in the Torah? The Torah says you can't swear falsely. Ochel v'lo ochel. If you say I will eat the piece of pizza today, and the whole day passes and you do not eat it, v'lo ochel over below yachel dvaro. You'll be over a different prohibition of profaning your words. You committed to something and you didn't do it. That's below yachel dvaro. The ezuhi Shavuot Shav. What's an example of a Shavuot Shav? Nishba l'shanos esayadu la'adam. Trying to change something which is already known to people, that the table is a table and you change it into a chair. Okay. Amar of Papa. Rav Papa is saying, how do Rabbi Abo? This that Rabbi Abo said in the name of Rav Yochanan, that I ate and then really you didn't eat, that's considered a Shavuot Sheker. We never actually heard him say it explicitly, but he very strongly implied it. Now we're only going to get to that in 25 lines from now, but that's going to spring us into the next thing. Amar Papa, Amar Had Rabbi Abo, that which Rabbi Abo just said regarding I ate and I didn't eat is lav befeir shitmar. He didn't say it explicitly, ela mechlala itmar. Rather, he implied it. Okay, so now let's go on a whole long thing. Damar of Idi, there we go. Damar of Idi bar Oven, Amar of Amram, in the name of Amar of Yitzchak, Amar of Yochanan. All these people said, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, that Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, the following. Any negative commandment in the Torah that you have an action associated with it, if you violate the action, you get malchus, lokanov. That we know already. Yeah, there's a lot of malchus about that. If it doesn't have an action, ain lokanov, then you don't get lashes, except for three cases. Nishpa is swearing. You swear that you ate and you didn't eat, right? That's no action. You just swore. The words were wrong. Meimar is regarding to Tmura. You transfer with your words Kedusha from one offering to another offering. Whole tractate in Shas about that. Umekalas Chavero. Or a person curses his friend, also with your words. No action associated with it. All those cases, you are liable lashes, even though there's no action associated with it.
This in his parasha, right? Is this
Could be. One of us is behind. I
was
see.
the Gassan, the Egyptian, the kid, was that?
Yeah. Last is partial. Yeah. At the end. Yeah. So, So, okay. Now, one by one, what's the source? Nishpa minol. And what's the source of nishpa? That you get lashes, even though there's no action associated with it. Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Amar Kra. The pasuk says, "Lo sisa shem Hashem kachal l'shap." You cannot bear God's name in vain, falsely. Kilo yinakya. Oh, Hashem is not going to absolve you. He's not going to give you lashes. So kilo yinakya. Says the Gemara, Bezdin shel mala ein menakinoso, aval bezdin shel mata malkinoso. Yeah, Hashem won't give you, He won't absolve you, but the court down here will absolve you. So now, on that way, we just read that verse and brought out this halacha. Amar Rapapala Abaye, who told you that's what it means? Maybe Dilma Haki Kamar Rachman lo yinaka klal. It just means Hashem will not absolve you at all. You will not be absolved. Not Hashem, not the court, nobody. Says the Gemara, well, if that's true, iksiv, kilo yinake, if it just said the word, you will not be absolved, then yeah, that will mean there'll be no lashes for this, and you won't be absolved. There's no way to clean you out. Maybe tshuva, I don't know, maybe Yom Kippur, to the commerce. Then it'll be like you said. However, Hash the ksiv kilo yinake Hashem. It says Hashem will not absolve you. From there I learn it's telling you Hashem hu de'enu menake aval bezdin shel mata malkinoso, but the bezdin shel mata they will absolve you. Malkinoso gives you lashes, umenakinoso, and they will clean you through the lashes. You get cleansed. Okay. Now, Ashkechan Shavua Shav. We found Shavua Shav when you're changing, when you're that verse of Lo Yinaka is by a Shavua Shav. That's by a Shavua of vanity. But how do I know that a Shavua Sheker gets you Malchus? This whole verse is only talking about when you swear in vain. It doesn't say when you swear falsely. There, by swearing falsely, it doesn't say, well, only God won't absolve you, but the court will absolve you. So how do you know you get lashes for that also? In the verse of the Shvuah of vanity, it says the word vanity 2 times, shav twice, 1 time for itself, and 1 time, not for vanity, for what? L'shav shtei pa'amim. Why? Imenu inyan l'shvuah shav, teneu inyan l'shvuah sheker. To teach you this idea that if it's not being used for a shvuah of vanity, because that you already know, it's teaching you about a false shvuah, that for the false shvuah, God will not absolve you, but yet the court down here will absolve you. This is all being brought for the next line. Trying to figure out where did Rabbi Abo imply this idea that eating in the past and not eating is considered a shvuah sheker. So now, v'havi ba Rabbi Abo is asking, ha'i shvuah sheker hechidami. Okay, you told me the source that you get lashes for a shvuah sheker. Well, what's the example that you need a source to teach me that you get lashes for a shvuah sheker? Hechidami, what's the case? I swear I'm not eating pizza today, and you get up and you go eat pizza. Well, there you did an action, right? There you're doing an action. You're getting up and eating. So for that, you don't need a special source, because that you get up and you did something. You did an action. That's a lav sheyesh v'maisahu. That already has an action associated with it. So we know already that you get malchus for that. But if you just made a shvuah that you will eat and you sit back and you don't eat, so hayimiloka, for that you get malchus? You get malchus for just sitting back and not eating? The ha'itamar, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish agree. If you make a shvuah to eat something and you sit back and you don't eat, you don't get malchus for it. But so therefore, that can't be what the verse is referring to, that I get malchus for some kind of shvuah. The ha'itamar shvuah she'ochel kikar zu hayom, the avar yom, I'm going to eat this kikar, this loaf today, and the day passes and you don't eat it, v'lo achla. Both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, Amrit Travayu, Eino Loka. They both say that you don't get lashes. We had a very similar Gemara, almost exactly in Malchus, in Makos. They both say you don't get lashes for different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Eino Loka Mishum Dahavi Lashim Ma'isa V'Kol Lashim Ma'isa Ein Loka Love. Rabbi Yochanan says, like his opinion, this is a negative prohibition where there's no act associated with it. A negative prohibition with no act associated with it does not get you lashes. Therefore, if you say, I'm going to eat the loaf today, you sit back and you don't eat it, no lashes. Reish Lakish Amar, Reish Lakish says, Eino Loki, you don't get lashes. Why? Mishum dahavi hasra safek. The hasra safek lo shmei hasra. Reish Lakish holds that you cannot, your warning to get lashes has to be within a very short time frame of the person doing the act. If you have the whole day to go and eat the loaf, so it's a safek. Maybe he'll do it, maybe he won't do it. It depends on the day. So it depends how, you have 10 hours to do it. But he holds that the hasra, the warning, has to be directly followed by an act. Therefore, your warning is going to be on an act. If your warning is going to be on a maybe act, that's called a warning that's in doubt. And according to Reish Lakish, hasra safek is not considered hasra. Okay.